Hello, and welcome to the RPG Academy podcast, Twitch channel, and YouTube stream. I think that's right. My name is Michael, and I'm here today to do a synergy session, which is what we started calling a very long time ago, where we take a pack of Magic the Gathering cards, open them, and just sort of as we are inspired by the cards we have in that pack, we try to design an RPG D&D adventure. Sometimes it's a one-shot, sometimes it's like a multi-shot. Sometimes it's been like an entire campaign world that has come from it. But generally it's fun, at least I think so. And hopefully it will be for you as well. If anyone does end up joining us in chat, please feel free to try to play along, offer suggestions and alternate suggestions for the cards that we use, and we'll go from there. So my first choice is I actually have 2 packs of 2015 core set cards. I've had these for a few years. I used to do this a little bit more regularly, and I hope to get back to doing it regularly because I think it's a lot of fun. So I bought a bunch of just like one-off packs just so I would have them available to do this. Normally I'm more of a blue player. Like I don't play Magic a lot anymore. I used to be really heavy into it, but not as much anymore. And blue was always one of my favorite colors. I just like the way it plays. So I'm going to be contrarian, and I'm actually going to go ahead and I'm going to open the less obvious blue one. So this is the pack that we're going to open. And again, just as a reminder, the way this is going to work, I'll move my little buffer here out of the way. That's to help me know where to put the card down. I'll pretty much go through them in order and try to just build off of the cards that we have. In some cases, I might go backwards, like a new card might inform a card earlier. Sorry, it's bothering me a little bit. Or I might just not use a card whatsoever. Sometimes the cards just don't make sense. And so I'll just, I have the right of refusal to not use a card if I don't want to. But again, a new card later on might change my mind as well. Okay. So to kind of keep myself honest, as it were, I'm going to turn the cards upside down so the backs are facing me. This would be the first card because I don't want to see what the next card is, but I also want to make sure that this card is viewable by you. Because I have not played this game in quite a while, I'm not super familiar with all the cards. So I'm going to be reading this basically for the first time. There we go. So this here, our first card is a blue card. It's a creature, an elemental creature called the Glacial Crasher. The image, for anyone who's listening only, it basically looks like an ice elemental. Well, I'm going to look at it here and then I'll put it into there. Of course, now I need my glasses. Looks like an ice elemental is attacking some sort of fire-based engine, like almost like Fire Nation from Avatar, out in the desert, or not desertness. Well, let's say it's desert, winter wastelands. The flavor text, the mechanical text is trample. So this creature has trample. It's a 5/5. And just a little bit of additional text here is the Glacial Crasher cannot attack unless there is a mountain on the battlefield. And it takes 4 colorless and 2 blue to summon. All right, I definitely need to adjust this camera a little bit, but I'm going to try not to do that right now because I'm just afraid that that's going to make things a little bit more unwieldy. So what I need, pardon me just for a minute. Let's see if this will work. This is real-time problem solving. Look at that. And that'll actually help me do a better job of knowing where to put the card. Whew, camera's wobbly. Okay, so, sort of the obvious inspiration here is there's some sort of ambush. And again, just in case this is the first time you've ever been with me when I do this, I can take anything as the inspiration. So I don't necessarily have to have a glacier creature or an elemental creature. It can just be the atmosphere, the tone, just anything about the card that inspires me. But I do like the idea of sort of like the inciting incident for our heroes is that a wagon train is traveling somewhere, maybe to a place or from a place, either exploring, that's what I'm looking for, like a polar region, or maybe there's just a settlement somewhere out there and it's ambushed and doesn't show up. A very, very classic RPG slash D&D adventure hook. Wagon train caravan doesn't show up. So for now, again, I might change my mind. I'm going to say that this is the inciting incident, and there's just a wagon train that doesn't show up, and our adventurers maybe are, man, that camera's really wobbly. I'm sorry. Go out and investigate. So the first thing is going to be this sort of investigation where they're going to see signs of some sort of large creature, maybe, has attacked the wagon train, not necessarily fight it, though. Certainly could come later. But we might come back to that one. We'll see. So our next card, if I've done this correctly, I should be able to read the card now here. All right. Is a red card. It's a creature, a scrapyard mongrel, a hound. It is 3 colorless and 1 red to summon. And the text is, as long as you control an artifact, Scrapyard Mongrel gets +2/+0 and has trample. And then, of course, the flavor text on this card is trespassers are welcome to try. So what I think here is, I'm kind of almost like somewhat of like a Star Wars Jawa sort of inspiration, that when our heroes go out and investigate the missing caravan, there isn't as much evidence as they would maybe have liked or what should have been there. And they see evidence that maybe someone like a scrapper has already come through and picked through the remains. So this is going to add an additional step. So rather than just following the tracks to the monster's lair, as it were, they're going to go maybe a different direction, the opposite direction, and they're going to have to negotiate and interact with this scrapper person. There will probably be a mongrel guard dog involved, not necessarily, but this again is going to be more of a role play situation with they need to find out where the materials that they collected are now, to do a better investigation and get maybe a better idea of what actually happened. So that it kind of becomes like necessary to have like secondhand information to get further. It's possible that this scrapper, as I'll call him, or her, or he, or she, or it, doesn't want to cooperate, and that could be an additional complication. Maybe they had already sold it to someone else, and then we add an additional complication. And this is just kind of the way I normally would design an adventure anyway, is I'm going to gauge my players. If they're having fun role-playing and interacting and following up on this sort of mystery and this investigation, then I might add a couple additional layers where, they've gone to the ambush site, but there's no clear direction where to go. They follow back to the scrapper gives them additional information. If they're still having fun here, then yeah, maybe at a third step, they have to go somewhere else to, get more information. Maybe even like whatever maybe town this person operates out of, this village, almost like a tax, or maybe there was something in the scrap that they collected that was potentially harmful or valuable. So it's been confiscated by the local law enforcement, guardman, that kind of thing, magistrate, whatever. So you have the PCs. Do they want to break into this like impound yard to complete the investigation? Do they want to try to negotiate with the magistrate? Does that become yet another layer where now they have, information they can get, rumors they can find, or, they have to do a favor for the magistrate as a favor for them. But if I feel like they're getting itchy to do something else, then we can just, leave that for another adventure. And for this one, we're just going to go ahead and, go fight some monsters or whatever. But so far, that's what I'm liking. So let's draw our next card here. Okay, so this is an instant. It's a white card. I'm going to butcher this pronunciation because, again, I am from Kentucky. Ephemeral Shields. It's one colorless, one white to summon or to cast. Excuse me. It has the Convoke ability, which I don't know what that means, but there's helpful text on the card. It says your creatures can help cast the spell. Each creature you tap while casting the spell pays for one colorless mana of that creature's or mana of that creature's color. Okay, so you can tap monsters for mana. Target creature gains indestructible until end of turn, which translates to damage and effects that say destroy, don't destroy it. All right. So this is some sort of, obviously it's a defensive spell, protection, it shields. So I'm thinking here that this might relate back to whatever creature or creatures initially attacked the convoy, that when we do get around to interacting with them, with our characters, if they fight them maybe for the first time, they're unable to injure them. They just don't have, I won't say don't, because D&D's got so many ways and powers and abilities. I'll say it's harder to hurt them. So perhaps you need a magic weapon. Our player characters might not have that yet, or a specific type of magic, force magic, that kind of thing. So it's going to be something like almost like they're fighting ghosts. I think that's the way it works in 5th edition, that, you, at least it did in some other older editions, unless you had certain weapons, you just didn't hurt ghosts, or there was like a chance you wouldn't. So maybe this will just be something special that this individual creature has, that you can't really hurt them without X MacGuffin. So yet again, we're adding layers to this adventure, that when they do get around to meeting these creatures for the first time, or creature, they can't just hit it with sticks until it dies. There's going to be a puzzle element, which could be, winnable in the scenario itself, where there's something like in the environment that they can use that will allow them, maybe if they can get it in like a water stream nearby, that the water will interfere with his abilities and it will become more solid. Or maybe it's something where they have to retrieve a specific type of item. Maybe there was something even on the convoy itself that could hurt it or could allow the PCs to hurt it, which is why it attacked the convoy to begin with. So now I'm thinking that maybe this is, again, very far out in the wilderness, and maybe this is a natural creature or creatures of this environment. More and more, humanoid settlers are coming in, and they don't like that. So they're trying to push them away. And there was something on that convoy that was going to allow for maybe more rapid expansion, some sort of heat ray that will help carve into these glaciers to build homes and that kind of thing. So maybe by destroying the convoy, it was trying to push these settlers out, but also protecting itself from one of the few things that can really harm it, which would be kind of an interesting part of the adventure, where the PCs would have to try to reconstruct or find someone that can reconstruct these parts that they have gathered, hopefully somehow earlier in the adventure, before they can actually fight the creature. Now, I'll just throw out here quickly, we don't know we have to fight this creature. It's very possible, even likely, depending on the adventurers you have, they may want to try to find a solution that doesn't involve killing this thing. Maybe they go back to the humanoids and say, sorry, too bad, can't live here, you got to go. They might keep this creature secret, and just they know the fact that it can be injured, but they don't want more people to settle. Those are all valid ways to complete, quote unquote, complete this adventure. It doesn't have to, and often shouldn't, devolve into just hitting things with sticks until something doesn't move anymore. I particularly enjoy these types of sort of moral questions. You have settlers coming in and pushing natural creatures out of their habitat. Who's to say that they should? But being a quote unquote a D&D slap adventure, there's a really good chance a lot of our heroes are going to want to just fight things. Cool, part of the game. But just want to make sure that if anyone who is following along or thinks about doing this type of adventure design themselves later on, It doesn't always have to just devolve into fighting. It can. Combats can be fun, but it doesn't have to be the ultimate goal of an adventure is, okay, now we get to the fight part. Okay, so moving on. I believe there are 15 cards in a pack of Magic the Gathering cards, plus like plans, tokens, everything. So we're through a third of them so far. Okay. So our next card is a blue instant. It costs 1 blue mana to cast. It's Hydro Surge. The image here is of a blast of water, almost like coming out of a strong hose. And it looks like some sort of creature. I don't know, kind of looks like maybe a tiger or a panther, but like a, Magic the Gathering version, not a natural to our planet creature, basically being pushed back by it. The text is target creature gets -5, -0 until the end of the turn. And our flavor text is thirsty, ? Drunvalis the Hydromancer. So very much Katara from Avatar: The Last Airbender, which I am just now watching this, so all these references are top of mind. You can basically shoot water. My initial thought here is this also goes to these creatures that are the reason the convoy was attacked, and they have the ability to, if they are glacier elemental types, that makes sense to me that they would be able to shoot water. That might be one of their powers and abilities, that they can defend themselves, whether they can actually produce water from themselves, or again, much like a waterbender, they can take water from the environment and use it for their own purposes. So for now, I'm going to say that this is another ability that we might give this custom monster that we seem to be designing. All right. So our next card is a black creature, a shade. It is the Zoth Shade. It takes 3 colorless and 1 black mana to cast. It is a 2/2 creature that is pumpable for 2 additional colorless and 1 black. The Zoth Shade gets +2/+2 until end of turn. And this is one of those things where if you pay that twice, it gets +4/+4. 3 times it gets +6/+6. The flavor text is shades are drawn to places of power, often rooting themselves into a single area to feed. So I guess my initial thought here is not necessarily that it's a shade itself, but there is some sort of dark power, maybe controlling things behind the scenes. This could be an organization, a cult, a guild, just government, dark, an evil or, chaotic aligned government that's forcing things here. But let's go with the shade thing. Let's my natural tendency is to not do that. But let's mix that up. So this could be like maybe a side quest, or an additional a bit of activity. So maybe when they're in the town where the scrapyard is, maybe this is what the magistrate, the favor they have is, there's been rumor sightings of this ghoul or zombie or this creature near a local grave, and it's scaring people, and scared people don't want to work and try to advance, hurting morale. So the magistrate, if the PCs go that way, want to help this creature. If we're not using the magistrate part of the adventure, then this could just be a rumor they run into. And they could run into some NPCs who are on their way out of town, and they just let them know, hey, there's this stuff is going on. You might want to be careful. So this could be a like a side quest sort of combat, especially if we're not building towards a big combat with our main creature or creatures, the glacier elemental inspired creatures. This could be a way to satisfy those players who do like combat a lot, and it's a creature of darkness and evil hanging out at a graveyard. Doesn't have to be a moral quandary. It's just this evil we kill. And those are sometimes fun to have in games as well. So I'm leaning towards having that as like I think not, side quest isn't the right way, like an optional encounter that you can throw in if the PCs seem like they're itching for a fight. There could be additional information that maybe there's something hidden in the graveyard. Maybe whatever object of power has drawn the shade is valuable or important to the story overall, to the hero's adventuring goals. but it could also just be here's a combat we can throw in if I feel like my players are ready for one. Pardon me one moment. All right. Whoops. Hit my microphone. Sorry. All right. Next card. Nope, that's not where it goes. All right. So our next card is an enchantment aura card. It's green. Vine Whift. Costs 1 green mana to cast. It's an enchant creature. Enchanting creature gets +1/+1. And for an additional 4 colorless, 1 green, you can return Vine Whift from your graveyard to your hand. And the flavor text just says, fortified by the wilds. So the image that we see appears to be an elven figure. Kind of looks like it's presenting female to me, but with elves, hard to say. And there are these vines that are somewhat wrapped around it, but others that seem to be lashing out. So like this person is able to control the vines. Makes sense, this enchantment where vines are helping to power up and defend a creature. So, I'm trying to think of how this would work. So far we've been dealing with like Arctic polar region. The Vine Whift doesn't really fit that. So I'm thinking, so again, this might be like an optional encounter, or this might play a larger role, that maybe there's like almost like an oasis, a hollow earth type situation, that at some point in the adventure, they get down below the ice and there's at least some area of verdant down there, not necessarily like the whole thing, but maybe just like an oasis. And I hate that I keep going back to the Avatar references, but I literally am in the middle of watching for the first time ever. And so there's a lot of references top of mind. And I think it's near the end of season 1, maybe even the end of season 1, when the characters are in the polar region and there's like this small oasis, just like, 70 feet by 70 feet of like grass in this pool. So maybe that's kind of like that, but it's just, so it's similar. You're in the Arctic polar region and there's this small area that's full of greenery and grass and vines and trees. So yeah, it's gonna put that kind of on hold for now. Maybe we'll come back to figure out who's there and why they're important. All right, so our next card. So this is also a green card. It's an instant, Naturalize, 1 colorless, 1 green to cast. The ability is destroy target artifact or enchantment. And the flavor text is, when your cities and trinkets crumble, only nature will remain. Garruk Wildspeaker. And the image is, it somewhat looks like an egg, but it looks like, I'm pretty sure it's like a fabricated egg, not a natural one. Sort of goldish color, looks like it's got like gems and emeralds and stuff on it. And it looks like it's breaking open, but I think what we're actually supposed to see is that there's a vine sort of breaking through it, because obviously we're breaking an artifact or enchantment. I'm so sorry, that camera is so wobbly. It's just going crazy. Let's do this. Maybe that'll help. So my thought now, connected to the last card, is that maybe this area of the world isn't supposed to be polar or Arctic. I'm not exactly sure of the right terminology. I'm just using both to cover my bases. Maybe there is some item that is actually causing this cold snap to grow and to spread, and that's why there's this verdant area. That's not like an oasis in the middle. It's like the last vestige left that hasn't been fully taken over by the Arctic. So maybe the Arctic itself is unnatural, and maybe the creature or creatures were summoned to protect it by whoever's creating it, or it's just a natural occurrence when it became that. So again, I think I'm gonna kind of hold this one in the back of my head. We might go away from that. I think that would probably, like if we wanted to take this out of the realm of a one shot into a multi-shot, that might be quote unquote sort of a twist, like partway through, when you realize that, oh, actually it's not really supposed to be that cold here, that's unnatural, and you kind of change the direction a little bit. So we'll see. Alrighty. So we're almost halfway through the cards. Oops. So our next card is an artifact. It's called the Tyrant's Machine. It costs 2 colorless to cast. Once it's on the battlefield for 4 mana, you can tap target creature. And the flavor text is though tempered differently, all wills can be broken. Credited to Inquisitor Kralik. And the image appears to be a pyramid of some sort with like the top section off like a cap and like a swirling maelstrom, and there's lightning sort of coming either out of or going into it. So to me, that kind of feels like that might be the artifact or enchantment that we need to break. So rather than there's an item or an artifact that's making this area colder, maybe the item is controlling this creature, the creature that attacked the caravan at the beginning, creature or creatures, I haven't decided yet. Maybe it did not do so of his own will. There's another power behind it that's actually controlling it. They have some reason they don't want settlers here, pushing them out. I mean, it could be classic Scooby-Doo villain situation where they have found some powerful resource. It could just be gold, or a mine that has silver or gold, gems in it. It could just be like a place of power that they want to use to summon, something they covet, and too many people would make it more difficult. So they have found this item or created this item, and it is controlling the creature to fight them. So you got an Old Man Johnson situation where maybe even the magistrate, who we think is kindly and helpful, is actually secretly behind everything. Bit cliche, but there's nothing wrong with cliche. Execution matters. You can do the most cliche game in the world, but if you do it well, people will have a good time. That's all that matters. So I think I like that. It's a little bit more simple, a little more straightforward. Even though we're adding a layer of complexity, we're not adding the layer of, we figure out halfway through that the weather climate is unnatural and have to fix that. We just have to figure out who's controlling these creatures and stop them. Alrighty. So our next card is a white instant. It's called Meditation Puzzle. Costs 3 colorless and 2 white mana to cast. It does have the convoke ability, as we discovered earlier. That means you can have your creatures help pay that casting cost. When it happens, you gain 8 life, and the text is find your center and you will find your way. So I keep saying so every time. Sorry about that. I realize I'm doing that. My thought is maybe this is what our person who has that Tyrant's Machine, that is what they are coveting. Maybe it's the Fountain of Youth, or some RPG D&D equivalent. It's a place of power that while they're there, they are revitalized, and they essentially could live forever or drastically extend their life and their power, and they don't want anyone else to use it, know about it, abuse it, find it. So, deep in this Arctic tundra, there's this oasis that we've already established, and in the heart of this oasis is, quote unquote, the Fountain of Life, the Fountain of Youth, and that is what our, quote unquote, bad guy is trying to keep other people from discovering. So I like that. Alrighty, so we've got just a few cards left. All right, our next card is a blue card. It's an instant. It's Negate. Costs 1 colorless and 1 blue to cast. You can counter target non-creature spell. The flavor text, Masters of the Arcane savor a delicious irony. Their study of deep and complex arcana leads to such simple end. The ability to merely say yes or no. And the image looks to be just like the torso of a humanoid, looks like mannish type creature. There's like this sort of chains around the waist and over the shoulder, around the chest. There's a circle of energy. And again, it's basically someone was trying to summon this creature and someone else said, nah. So it's a counterspell, basically. So I have an initial thought. I want to see if I can think of something a little bit more complex. If anyone is in chat, if you're interested in jumping in now, give me some ideas of how you might incorporate this. I guess my initial thought is that whoever's using the Tyrant's machine to control these creatures is going to be able to summon more. So if our heroes do end up defeating these creatures, that's only going to prolong the problem or temporarily solve it. So we have to find some way to negate the ability to summon additional creatures, which could be as simple as just destroying the machine, or maybe within a certain proximity to that place of power, other spells don't work. And so there's like a magical anti-magic field that maybe surrounds it in a way, so it sort of limits what we can do. So I'm just going to say, for now, I'm just going to skip this one. I don't see it cleanly fitting into our adventure. So we'll set it to the side and see if something else comes up here in a minute. Alrighty. So this is a green creature wall of mulch. 1 colorless, 1 green to cast. It's a defender, which means this creature cannot attack. And for 1 green mana, you can sacrifice a wall and draw a card. The flavor text is: mulch is the fabric of life in the forest. Plants live in it, they die in it, and then they become part of it, feeding countless generations to come. And the wall is a 0/4. So I think this is just part of that verdant area, that oasis, that to get to it, there are some natural defenses. I mean, it's a 0/4. This isn't a particularly strong wall. It's pretty low casting cost for if we're playing Magic the Gathering rules. So I don't think this is necessarily too difficult to overcome, but it is something our heroes will have to break through or find some way around. So once they locate this oasis and they come out of the cold and into this area, they don't just get to walk in. There's going to be some sort of, wall that they have to penetrate before they can get inside enough to really see what's going on. That was our first uncommon card. So I think there's 3 of those and then the rare. So it means we have 3 cards left, I think. All right. So our next card is a green instant called Gather Courage. Costs 1 green mana to cast. It has Convoke. And the target creature gets +2/+2 until the end of turn. And the image is of a soldier on the battlefield. And it looks like there are lots of other soldiers around. There's 2 in particular in the foreground that this person's ferocious attack seems to be causing them to cower back in fear. So basically it's a boost. We got a hero in the midst of battle, suddenly gets a boost of strength. So this could just be part of that oasis that when you're there, because you're close to that fountain of youth, that you feel replenished and refreshed. Maybe if you are defending it, that it assists you in that. So this could be somewhat of a complexity where we're going to say the magistrates right now, that's still who I think might be behind everything. They're trying to use this fountain of youth for their own nefarious purposes. So they're not defending it like trying to protect it. They're defending it trying to keep it secret. So that's a little bit different. I guess maybe the fountain has a bit of an awareness to it. So if our heroes get there and try to help protect it actually, then they might get that bonus. But until they realize it needs to be protected, maybe they don't. So it's like an aura environmental effect that, 20 squares out in every direction. If you do not have the interest of the fountain at heart, you take disadvantage to all your attacks and rolls if we're playing 5e. And if you are trying to protect the fountain, you actually get advantage on everything. I'm a fan of environmental effects. I think it's kind of a cool way to change things up. Maybe it's even like a pulse. So like on odd rounds, it goes out 20 squares. On even rounds, it only goes out 10, which could add a little bit of complexity to the battle that I assume we are having here now, which is always fun. All right. So our next card is a red enchantment called Circle of Flame. It is a 1 colorless, 1 red to cast. Whenever a creature without flying attacks you or a planeswalker you control, Circle of Flame deals 1 damage to that creature. Flavor text is, which did you think a better deterrent? A moat of water or one of fire? Chandra Nalar. And the image is a person kind of in the background up on a rocky ledge, kind of giving me Moses vibes coming down, arms akimbo. And there's just a fire all around the base of these rocks. So Circle of Flame. Doesn't really fit the Arctic. So I think I'm going to take the inspiration that it's just like an environmental protection. And I want to say it's an ice wall instead. So this is another defense mechanism that our creature that's being controlled by our magistrate can use. During that battle, it can throw up a circle of ice that can, block movement, and the characters have to overcome before they can get in and attack anymore. All right, here's our final card other than our land. Our land's a mountain, so get that out of the way. This is our rare, Yisin the Wanderer Bard. I don't know enough about Magic to know if that's a card worth anything or not. It is a legendary creature, human rogue, 2 colorless, 1 green to cast. It is a 2/3 creature. It has an ability for 2 mana and a green. You can tap it. Put a verse counter on Yisin the Wanderer Bard. Search your library for a creature card with converted mana cost equal to the number of verse counters on Yisin and put it into the battlefield, then shuffle your library. And the image is looks to be a humanoid male, right eye covered with like a bandage, holding a fantasy harp, and there's a large snake bug caterpillar type creature behind it. So it's a green card that summons creatures. So I think this is our bad guy. So rather than it being the magistrate, I think it's Yisin, the Wanderer Bard, who is, because this person has the ability to summon creatures. We've already established that that's something that we're going to be dealing with. So maybe the magistrate is under the influence, because we have that tyrant's machine. We know that the main bad guy here is able to break people's will. So that's our twist. We are going to make it seem like the helpful magistrate is secretly behind everything, when it turns out they are actually just a puppet, and the actual puppeteer is Yisin the Wanderer Bard, who we probably will bring into the adventure pretty early as a helpful, maybe annoying creature or follower, creature, person. Different groups are different, obviously, but I can definitely see a lot of the groups I play with, if I throw in this bard who wants to sort of join the party and sing songs about them and, make songs about their exploits, they're going to probably find them funny, maybe a little bit of annoying, which hopefully will throw them off the scent that this is actually the person that's behind everything until the final reveal. So that's it. 38 minutes or so, pack of Magic the Gathering cards, and I have an adventure that with, probably another hour's worth of work we could have at the table and be running. I know some people, Chris Burley specifically, the Redemption Podcast, who's done this with me before, has ran the adventure that they wrote through doing this. So if anyone out there is listening, one, if you end up taking this idea and running with it, I would love to hear how it goes. If anyone's listening in the future and you had a different idea for the cards and the same cards took you down a different path, I'd love to hear what adventure you came up with. So please consider commenting, either on the YouTube post of this or the podcast, audio only podcast version that will be out sometime in the future. And let me know, how were you inspired? If you've done this yourself, what did you do? What cards did you use? If you use these cards, how were you inspired differently than me? So thanks for watching and listening now or in the future, and we'll see you next time. Bye-bye.